All right, everybody. Well, welcome back to the table with Mike Sims and Chris McCurdy as we're gathering together today to do an interesting episode. For those of you who don't know, I was on vacation last week and Mike Sims agreed to preach. And so we're kind of doing the same format, but a little bit the other way around. We're digging a little deeper into what Mike was talking about this last Sunday. But first of all, Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Actually, it was very good on Sunday. Wasn't I think the more I do it, the little less nervous I get about being up there. Although I'm still not ready to step out and into the chancel like you do. Not ready for that just yet.
Well, I was telling you, that's a choice, and I know many accomplished speakers who don't do it that way. It's whatever you want to do.
Right.
It's how we do it.
Yep.
The scripture you chose this week is a great scripture to start off the Advent season with the Gospel of Luke, starting in chapter 2, verses 1 through 3.
Mm-hmm.
1 through 3, I think it is. Maybe it goes down to 7,
I think
actually.
it went down to 7.
I think it goes down to 7.
Yeah, because I wanted to basically the gist of the message was, the room, making room.
Right,
So
right.
Part of it.
Yeah, so I'll start us off and I'll read the scripture for us here and then we'll get into it. So in those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world. This was the first census that took place while Quirinius was governor of Syria, and everyone went to their own town to register. So Joseph went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house and the line of David. He went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child. While they were there, the time came for the baby to be born, and she gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in cloths and placed him in a manger, because there was no guest room available for them. So I kind of wanted to start by just asking you, what's your process? What's your process in putting together a sermon? You've done it a couple of times now.
Yep.
I know you did it before I was hired.
Yep.
I'm not sure how many times, a handful,
a handful or
something like that. And you've done it for me a couple of times.
Yep.
So how do you start? Like, how do you create a sermon?
Well, I try to go through personal experience. What I'm trying to do is I used to write for The Voice many years ago because we just didn't have an editor. We've had times in the past where we didn't have a pastor. So it was drawing on personal experience and then trying to piece from there, okay, how do I get the liturgical part of it in there?
Right.
And, sometimes it's very easy, when we look at our lives and what's happened and, things that have gone on and experiences that we have. And I think to me, I've always related well to somebody that's speaking to me from the pulpit in today's terms.
Right.
Bring, the Bible to today. What have you experienced, that's kind of brings the message, of Jesus to today's world, and that's, I think that, in part, it makes it easier to understand. I know there's things that went on back then because that's how things were done,
right,
or that's how people were, and that doesn't always translate well,
right.
But when you look at this particular scripture, everybody has a experience with the Christmas season, good, bad, and different. However, you've got these experiences with Christmas, and I've always felt Christmas was very easy to write about, to preach about. And when I first read this, I read some of this message through a Max Lucado book And then there's a Casting Crowns song out that's, Make Room, which the band did play on
Right.
Sunday as well. And it's like, this is a good message at the beginning of this Christmas season.
Mm-hmm.
We get so busy in everything that we're trying to do. We don't take time to make room in our heart for what's going on.
Well, and I'm not gonna hijack the venue for very long, but the Bible study is kind of about the same idea. The underlying idea behind the Advent Bible study is we as a people know that we're waiting and anticipating the coming of Jesus, and Advent is a season about anticipation, preparation. How do you get your heart ready? But I theorized that we kind of prepare and anticipate in a Jesus good kind of way,
Right.
but we maybe don't take the time to list, what am I looking forward to? And so in some ways, I really do think, and I think 1,000 pastors are going to come out of the closet and clobber me with sticks, but I really do think the commercialism of Christmas can teach us something.
Oh, yes.
In that you look forward to things, like you get the perfect gift under the tree and you're so excited about it. Take that feeling and apply it to, this is how I should be looking for Jesus in my life.
Right.
If I'm not, how do I? If I am, well, you're probably not, because we're all sinners.
Right. Exactly.
But you see what I mean? It's like being able to focus on what it is that we're really looking for Jesus to come. And it may sound bold or even a little too proud to lay out, this is why I'm so excited, but it's easy to find when you look at the promises that are made with his coming. Yeah, well, you're completely right about the applicability of sermons, about how that really draws people in. You said a couple of times in your message about your work with restaurants and stuff, and it's not the same as a hotel, but the similarities are there. And I found that to be really interesting, because that is a part of the story that sometimes we don't pick up on. There's no room at the end means it's full of people.
Right.
And the town is probably busting at the seams.
And it's a good thing for them. And I think that's a point that sometimes we miss. It's like, okay, you get the message. Okay, we just stuck them out in the manger because we don't have any room. But this was a good time for businesses. This was a good time for people. That things were humming. I mean, and you're in the restaurant business, we're the same way. You want to be busy, and one of the points I made in there is that when you do get busy, you do miss stuff. I mean, you miss the little stuff that goes on. And, sometimes it's somebody that, might have stayed over to help out, or somebody that was cleaning up as you're going along, or somebody that took care of a customer out on the floor that, didn't get what they wanted, or, you had to, do something in order to make their, visit a little bit better. You miss that stuff because you're trying to harness the busyness of what's going on.
Ride the chaos wave.
The chaos. And that's exactly a very good, good word to use. It's chaos, and it ain't controlled chaos either. It's chaos.
Right.
So, and you do and miss stuff. And that's kind of what I was, trying to point out is, we've all been there. Whether you've, hosted a bunch of people over, family, friends, whatever, for dinner, you're busy focusing on what's coming out, or, you're decorating, and, we do have a lot of decorations. So there's a lot going on, and you're not decorating there. You're decorating your office. You're decorating, we decorate the restaurants. So, when you get into December, it's nonstop.
Right.
And it's bad enough that they, some of these stores try to start Christmas at, September. But once that Thanksgiving rolls around, it's okay. Things, you look at the calendar and there's something. I think you mentioned, we were talking about even setting up a time to do this. And you were talking about the, things that the kids have scheduled. You got family coming over, you got a session that you're, hosting, and we got men's Bible study. You put all that stuff together. Some of that's just normal stuff that we have every month, but now you add on, we got a Christmas play we got to go to for Dexter,
Right.
my grandson. And, so that's on the calendar. You got, it's just, it literally just gets so busy. I think that Dale Chapman once said, "Why do we have to do everything in December?" It's like, can't we just put some of this stuff off till January when we're looking for things to do?
Yeah, I mean, the whole Hanukkah, 12 days thing sounds really appealing sometimes. Can we one gift, one thing every day for 12 days sounds sometimes better than doing it all in one. And the point that I don't want to lose here in this is, you said, and I really love this point, these are good things. Mm-hmm. And yet they miss the Savior being born. And so I think so much Christian vernacular, especially in writing and other things, talk about avoid the good or avoid the bad things, do the good things, stay away from sin, follow the Lord. The challenge is we list a lot of things as being good.
Right.
And all the things we just listed, Dexter's play, Lillian has choir concert, orchestra concert, family get-togethers, putting out decorations, preparing meals for people coming over to your house. All those things are good things. All those things are wonderful things. You're going to miss what you're called to if that's all you're looking for. And hence, I think your sermon, your message was so important at the beginning of the season, because it's not about being more aware. It's about literally making space for a calling to happen. And this time of year, and I would argue any time of year, that's so difficult. Right. But this part of year especially.
It makes it, because it's just so busy, and it's, we have our lists of everything we got to do. And that's got to be on the list and a priority, a conscientious effort to stop and make room in your heart for the story he's got for you.
Well, and I think to a certain degree, it's what we perceive to be important versus what's God's call.
Right.
It's very important for me as a father to be at Lillian's orchestra concert.
Right.
But if I don't make room to really watch, to really listen, something that I like to say to new classes of deacons when they come into the church is, I could sit up here and give you a list of things that you should be doing. What's important is you come to church and you keep your eyes open. You look, you see someone sitting off by themselves, you go and talk to them. You notice that someone comes in late for a couple weeks in a row, or maybe they don't come at all for a couple weeks in a row. You give them a call and say, "Are you doing all right?" And we don't often, I think culturally, we're taught not to investigate.
We don't want to intrude on somebody's time.
Well, we don't want to intrude on our own time.
This is true. We don't want to intrude on our own time. But yeah, we were just actually had a little bit of a conversation about that today. And a dear friend of ours had passed away suddenly. And the discussion was, how everybody processes, and we all do it differently. And the talk was, okay, you want to go over, you want to help, you want to do, but you also have to be conscientious of where they are and what they want at that point. And so sometimes we have a tough time where that barrier is at.
It goes both ways. It's, I don't want to intrude and push myself into their grief, into their world. But at the same time, sometimes if you're being honest with yourself, you don't want the responsibility of looking after someone when you're looking at your world and your schedule and saying, where would I put this? And hence you did not make room.
You have not made the room in your heart. because you're not doing that. But
You're actively avoiding.
But yeah, exactly. Very actively. But part of what you said earlier about the perception of what we think is important, and that is one of the things that I said when I started the message was, there's things that we think are important. You got to decorate, and
Mm-hmm.
as an example, we're trying to finish up decorating. Okay, it's December 3rd now, and I give Diane a lot of credit. She looked and said, you know what? There's still stuff here, but we're done. This can go up. It'll go up next year. We'll figure out what to do with it. But we're pretty much we're done. So we got to get it's kind of now we got to get on with the season. We can't just keep decorating. And I do think that we get caught up in some of the nostalgia of what Christmas was.
Right.
We know what it was like when we were growing up, or when Carrie was at home. Our daughter when she was growing up. You get into that nostalgia mode. I gotta make this, or I gotta put this up, or we used to do this, so we gotta make it that way, and it doesn't have to be that way.
And you made that point in here, and that was a specific question that I had for you. The word nostalgia itself, especially as it pertains to Christmas and it pertains to what it is we're trying to do. My question is, when we're chasing that nostalgia train, especially around Christmas, with all the traditions, with all the this is the way it's always been done kind of talk, are we trying to relive the past, like bring up the emotional response that we had back then, or are we trying to recreate it to show other people those things? Like, this was so important for me, I'm going to make it so important for you. This is a core memory, so I'm giving you a core memory. Are we trying to relive it for ourselves, or are we trying to recreate it for the world around us?
I think the cop-out answer is we're doing both. I think in some
you've told me nothing, Mike.
Answer your question. I think more we're looking at this is what we felt. It made us feel good. So this is what we want to bring back because we think you're going to feel good going through it. The thing I think we miss, and there's nothing wrong with nostalgia. There's nothing wrong with trying to recreate. But I think what we miss is making our own memories. Our own Christmas. And one of the discussions I had with somebody was that it seems like to me the holiday that's changed the most is Christmas. Halloween, we still go out. We decorate for Halloween. We go out. We ask for candy, which, by the way, is a great gig. Knock on somebody's door. They give you candy. I'm not sure how it gets any better than that. But
one of these years, I just want to say trick for every kid who comes around and be like, show me what you got.
Right. Give me what card trick you got. But I think that Christmas is one that changes because the family dynamics change. When Diane and I first got married, we opened presents on Christmas Day. She opened them on Christmas Eve. Well, you know what? We had to make our own, decision on what was happening there. You got two families you got to go to. So I think Christmas is one of the ones that changes the most over the years. And I think we do.
Do you think it changes like culturally, or it changes like personally?
Personally.
Yeah.
I think it changes personally.
Yeah.
I think everything's still there, from a cultural standpoint, but I think personally it changes. Yeah. And I think we try to hold on to what it was. I mean, it was when we gathered at my grandparents' house, everybody was there, aunts, uncles, cousins, everybody was there.
Right.
And, I cannot tell you. I'll tell you a lot of things. Well, yeah, how do they do? I think it was sawhorses and plywood. Because it was everywhere. And it was the proverbial kids' table that I was sitting at.
Oh, yeah.
But, I remember a lot of things about those Christmases. I cannot tell you one present I ever got.
Right.
I just don't remember the presents I got.
Yeah.
But I remember the things that were around. I can tell you the ornaments that were on the tree. I can tell you the tinsel that was like, because tinsel was everywhere back in those days. The ribbon candy that sat on the TV console. I can tell you all that. I can't tell you one thing I ever got.
That's funny because it was last year. I think we were going on vacation and we went to Holiday World, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
On the way, we passed through Tell City, Indiana, which is the town where my grandfather was a Methodist minister in that town. And just on a lark, I pulled off. We go to the house. I know exactly how to get there in Tell City, which is weird because I've never driven there before.
Okay.
We pull up. It's Sunday morning. We find someone in the church, which is connected to the house. And I tell him about my grandfather. He's like, "Oh yeah, I remember your grandfather." And they give us a key. We walk through the house.
Oh, wow.
I think I remembered it better than my mom did. Like I knew every nook and cranny. Mm-hmm. The place had been remodeled, and I was like, "Oh, and I pulled, like, this section of wall was up, but it wasn't attached. And I pulled it back and was like, yep, that's where that is. That's where that is. That's where that. You're right. It's those places are ingrained in your head, and it's not about the gifts.
No, it's not. And I think it's those thought, that feeling that we want to try to bring over to, the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
Or, friends. Hey, this is how we celebrated, come on over.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's nothing wrong with it, but we can't get caught up in it.
It's a good place to start, I think.
Yeah, there you go.
Once you start getting mad and throwing things around right. because it's not right. turning out the way you remember it, right. then you've lost it.
Well, and you got to understand that as hard as you may try, it's just not going to be the same.
Right.
And I mean, and there's things, I always tease that, and I mentioned ribbon candy. I always tease that, my grandmother had that stuff out. It was dusty.
Uh-huh.
I swear she used the same ribbon candy year after year because it was not candy. It was a decoration. It went into the boxes with the rest of the decorations.
That didn't stop you from eating it.
No, it didn't stop me from trying. It was horrible. It looked great. I mean, it was one of the best looking candies out there, but
right.
it was horrible.
Right.
But we have a box of ribbon candy we probably had for 10 years now. It goes under the tree. So that's the part. I know it's, that it's just a remembrance for me of that time, and so I always tease Carrie that's what the ribbon candy is. But we try that stuff.
Now Jessica has a little Ziploc bag in our Christmas decorations of these snowflake doilies that her grandmother made.
Yeah.
And, they're kind of brown now and falling apart, but we put them out every year
right.
because it's bigger than we're not looking for, cup holders or anything. No, I don't know what you use doilies for besides that.
I think you just put something on it. It's just supposed to protect something, I guess.
Yeah, so. It's the person who made them that make them for us.
Right, exactly.
Moving on a little bit, this is another kind of a side note, but you said what would the Christmas season be like without food?
Right.
And it just got me thinking about the brilliance of God in making central to our worship process communion, because if there's anything in the Bible that screams that God knows us so well, it's by focusing our worship around the table and getting us to go there, because we worship without knowing it every day.
Right.
We gather with people at the table, and you feel almost disappointed when those things don't work out.
Right.
You feel less than.
Well, growing up, the central part of our Christmas gathering was that dinner. It was everybody at the table. I mean, there was conversations. I couldn't even tell you how many conversations were going on at one time around that table. And, it was, you're gathered there because it was dinner time. It was food. It was,
Also, you mentioned things getting you into the Christmas mood by watching movies.
Right.
And I just have to ask you, what's your Christmas movie?
Well, I always have Charlie Brown as
Charlie Brown
that's
Christmas.
the one I watched. But I've gone, there's things that we have done. We watched White Christmas is one of the ones I really like. But we actually went and saw it in the theater, and that was really cool. Because obviously none of us ever had that opportunity to see that old of a movie in the theater, and they were running it for a couple of days, and told Diane, so let's go see it. I mean, we've seen it 100 times, but we've never seen it like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, I like the the old stuff, but there are some new things. We watch Christmas Chronicles every year with Kurt Russell. I mean, I just love that one. But yeah, you can try some new stuff. We try to find a movie out, not necessarily always Hallmark, but try to find something out there.
Why are these women leaving 300, 400,000 plus paid jobs in the city and meeting up with farmers back in their hometowns all the time?
Farmers they used to date when they were in high school, but didn't date anymore. Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Is it really that common of a story?
Apparently, it is that common. But yeah, I do like some of the older stuff. But it was just really neat to have that opportunity to see White Christmas.
Well, the reason why I asked it was to kind of bridge us into, is there an image that comes to your mind when you think of Christmas? Like something where it's Christmas because you see this thing and it really tugs on your memories and just makes you sit back and kind of smile kind of a thing. For me, it's the Christmas tree and the lights on it.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, we had those giant bulb lights.
Yeah.
And we put the same ones up every year. It always looked like Dad was taking the tree hostage by like roping it down kind of a thing. And man, they've made such improvements in Christmas lights since then. But
I do remember those lights.
But there's something about, you shut off the lights, you sit there and you just kind of bask in the glow for a time. And those lights, man, they glowed. For me, that's the image that comes to my mind. I was wondering if you had.
Well, you talk about sitting there with the tree. That's my Christmas Eve. We get done with service here. Things are quiet. You're done preparing. You're done decorating. You're done shopping. You're done wrapping.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that Christmas Eve moment when you're just sitting there and it's just a tree. And, it's quiet, and it's just like, okay. That's not the first time it's Christmas, but it's almost the first time you sit back and say, okay.
It's something you're looking for.
Right. I can relax now. Everything's done. Or done as much as it's going to. I think, the tree is one thing. I think that when we pull those decorations out, that's the time, that it's Christmas time.
Well, and we mentioned a lot of things like you talked about the ribbon candy earlier. I'm pretty sure that holds a special place in your heart and things of that nature.
It won't be those chestnuts over and over. That was, and it's funny because we tried to do some, every year we try to do something new. We went and, we saw Nutcracker. Oh boy. That was an experience.
Are you not a fan of Nutcracker?
Oh no, I'm not. Not at all. But I was, it was a family thing. Someday I'll try to get Diane over to the Rockefeller tree because that's the tree is her thing. That's her thing. She likes her trees.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's things that I don't know if it's just one thing. But it's just it's stuff that you look at and brings up a memory. It's like, okay, yeah, I remember that, or yeah, that's the way that was done then. It's done this way now, and
Yeah. The story itself gets into the manger scene a little bit, and I'm glad you talked about the nativity a little bit because. There's so much wrong with the nativities that we set up.
So much wrong. But
I mean,
we want it in a nice, neat little package. We want everybody there. This is a story. There were shepherds in the story. There was donkeys. There was kings and camels and whatever. We want them all there at the same time.
yep. Then they're not.
No, they're not.
Like Mary and Joseph were probably in the inn by the time the kings got there, because it's like a month, 2 months later.
Right. It's like they weren't there at the birth witnessing.
They weren't there. Also, we don't know how many there were.
Right.
We know how many gifts they brought. We don't know how many kings there were.
Because of that frankincense, myrrh, and gold.
Everybody carry one thing,
one thing
to the Jesus.
All my camel can handle is just one package.
Yeah. Not to mention, we rarely put the idea of childbirth happening there.
Mm-hmm.
Having been a father in a delivery room,
Mm-hmm.
having been a pastor in the remnants, I'll call it, of delivery rooms, there's no way it's that nice.
Right now.
I mean, I know it's a barn. I know it's a manger.
Right.
It's still too nice.
It's already a mess, all right?
So the manger scene gives us an idyllic view of the coming of the Savior into the world, but it doesn't put a human view on the coming of the Savior into the world. And I appreciate that part of your sermon, talking about the innkeeper's perspective, talking about the hustle and bustle. Joseph and Mary travel all this distance to get there. Well, so did everyone who was there.
Right.
If there is a single person in that town, it's because they had to be.
Right.
Because everybody else had to be at the town of their birth, of their tribes and things of that nature. So everybody's coming into this place trying to kind of find their space, find their way. Yeah. Everybody's out of sorts. Right. Our culture understands going and traveling way better than this culture did. The idea of taking a trip somewhere on vacation, no.
Yeah. Well, and we like to condense that whole scene down to about half a dozen people, a few animals, and I always like the debate, of whether Jesus should be the baby should be in the cradle or not until Christmas morning, or it's like, well, there's some that are built that he's already there. I don't know what you do, chisel him out, I guess, but
well, and even in our church, we were talking about, for the last couple of years, we've had the nativity out in the lobby area. Right. And this year, I received 3 different notes from people, independent from each other, asking to put it back in the sanctuary. And I was like, no, cool. That's a great idea. But somebody said to me, I'm so glad we put it there, because it always seemed wrong to me that we have Jesus out in the lobby. And I remember last night I said back to somebody, I was like, well, that's where he was.
He was in the lobby.
He wasn't in the main area. Everyone could over. He was out in the lobby.
Well, it was funny.
Our job is to go to the lobby.
Not bring him to us. We're supposed to put him. Well, it was funny because I got here a little bit early on Sunday. I thought, I should talk to Ron about putting up a manger scene on the screen. And I'm going around. I'm looking for him. And I walk in the back, and we have that manger scene on the, across by the window. And I'm walking up like, it's a manger scene right over there.
Right there.
And then I was out in the hallway, manger scene right on the wall here. I don't think I need one up on the screen. We got them all over the place.
And also, at this point in time, since Thanksgiving is over, it's highly likely that like 80% of the people have a manger scene in the house that they left to come to the church.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Well, the $10,000 question is how? How do we make room? We've been talking for however long here about all these things, all these responsibilities, all these joys that we get to experience. How do you make room to go to the lobby? How do you make room when you're the innkeeper and there's a constant line of people coming in? Because it's not just be more observant.
Right.
It is a choice to stop at some point and perk your ears up and say, okay, God, where do I go next?
Well, I think one of the ways, and this is kind of almost the next part of the story,
Mm-hmm.
is
trust me, I'm doing that.
Right. And the rest of the story is you have to consciously take time for yourself, whether you're picking up the Bible, read through that Christmas story another time. I don't know how many times I've read the same scriptures, I've read the same books of the Bible, and it hits me a little bit differently.
Right.
You got to take that time. Take that time with just the Christmas tree and just yourself, and if that's that hot cup of cocoa or whatever, just take time. We try to do stuff during the year. People do Bible studies. They read some scripture when they get up. I know Diane, she's listening to the Bible and listening to it. Somebody reading it. But I think at this time of the year, it's even more important to take that time, what time you have, and make it a priority to, listen to, read the story. I'll plug us. Listen to the podcast. We're going deeper into the messages that we're doing on Sunday morning. Take that and go further. Take the scriptures that you hear on Sunday morning, take those and go further. It's a conscientious effort. You have to do it. Otherwise, you are going to be watching the ball drop, and it's going to be 2026, and Christmas is over.
Right.
And what have you accomplished?
I like that. There's a simplicity in it, but it's also very meaningful in the take what you always do and do something different.
Mm-hmm.
If this is the season of preparation, if this is the season of anticipation, then it can't be the same as the last season was, or the season will be after it.
Right.
So take your morning devotion and make it a nightly prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Take your drive to work in the morning and take a different road,
mm-hmm.
and have yourself a little time to think while you're doing it.
Well, I think it's,
come to church 15 minutes early and talk to people while you're here.
Right. Yeah. I think it's challenging yourself, not necessarily always get out of your box, but to challenge yourself to do something a little bit more, take a little time for yourself, do something for people, try to help out, that kind of stuff.
Definitely. It'll be different for everybody, because like we said, it's not about cutting something out.
Right.
It's about making room.
Right.
And you can make room by cutting something out, but more often than not, that isn't the creative part of the situation. That's the cleanup. And you still have to decide after that what you're going to do to create the space.
Right.
You had said to me before we started that there was something you wanted to share.
Yeah, I wanted to share. This came across my desk this morning, and I'm going to kind of switch gears a little bit.
Okay.
In that college football is kind of in a rough place. We're dealing with, how many coaches have, been let go, and they're making millions of dollars not to coach. And, we got NIL going on, and we got, I think we get caught up in how much greed there is out there. And, as a fan, I know you're a fan of Notre Dame,
mm-hmm.
fan of Ohio State, we want our teams to win. And sometimes we get into that win at all costs, kind of thing. But we're going through this time, and this came across my desk. This is from Jamarcus Shepard, and he is Oregon State's new head coach.
Okay.
And this is what he said in his, I think in his first conference.
Oh, okay.
To the news conference. He says, I get up every morning and look in the mirror, and I say to myself, and I'm going to read what he says: "There's someone who needs you today. They need you. They need you now. They don't need you a week from now. They don't need you a month from now. They need you today. I don't care what's going on in your life right now. Go help them." And that is what my life is all about, is about helping people.
Mm.
Now, that's a college coach. This is what we miss. These college teams are kids.
Right.
These college coaches are they're trying to, balance this world of winning all the time in these young adults
Mm-hmm.
that they're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Shaping
think,
boys into men.
right. I mean, I think the Ohio State quarterback, I think he's 19, and yes, when he throws an interception, I'm yelling at the screen, what are you doing? Not realizing, and then I have my Diane going, I don't know if that kid even started shaving yet. Oh, he probably didn't, but he just threw an interception. You understand that?
Do you think he'll throw less interceptions if he shaves?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying, Diane?
And she's saying, do you think he'll throw less if you keep yelling at the TV? Yes, I do. He can hear me. But when I read that, it just kind of hit me today. It's like, no, that is the attitude that we got to have. And maybe that's the attitude we have to have during this season. You see somebody, this is a tough season for people that, they've lost people, that, it's their first Christmas without someone. They're having a tough time financially with Christmas. This is a time that we can help people, and this is what we need to do.
Well, and I think a lot of times we take our time and our work in the church and we are kind of happy with what we do here and then move out into the quote unquote real world. And we forget that these are the training grounds.
Right.
This is continuing the sports analogy. This is training camp.
Mm-hmm.
And learning to listen to people, learning to shape your life after waiting on God is the point. Mm-hmm. And we don't take what we learn here and say, that was fun. Right. We take what we learn here and we apply it elsewhere. And if the message is make room for God in your life, I hope this season opens us up to a new way to be ready to answer that call, ready to see what's going to come next. Yeah. And if we can, it was an excellent season.
Right. Well, I once heard the church on Sunday needs to be the church on Monday. We need to take what we're doing on Sunday and take it out to the world. It just doesn't stay here.
Right. Christmas. Why isn't it year round? Yeah. I've heard that many times. Yep. And I feel like the older you are, your response is because that would be exhausting. But the true sense, the joy, the charity, volunteer organizations, pro bono organizations talk about how huge percentages of their funding come in at this time of year.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's because people want to. Mm-hmm. And you take what you learn about wanting to help, mm-hmm. and you build that into your character, into your spirit, then Jesus really has been born into your life mm-hmm. anew. Right. And it really does so much for us and for our ability to pay attention to these things.
And that's what this coach is saying.
Exactly.
This is every day. I get up every morning.
You said this was Oregon State?
Yeah, Oregon State's new head coach.
Yeah.
Jamarcus Shepard.
That's great. That's great. I'm a small fan of Oregon State now. I have to cheer for the Beavers, I guess.
I didn't even know there were Beavers. But
I'm pretty sure I'm
Ducks
right.
in Oregon. We got Beavers in Oregon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will, kind of pay attention to what's going on, because that just hit me like, wow. Okay.
Yeah. That's an excellent message and an excellent mindset to mm-hmm. come into such a job with.
Yeah.
So we were talking about this, and we are hoping to do another podcast before the new year. Like Mike was talking about earlier, we got to figure out when. Mm-hmm. We're not sure exactly when it'll take place, but I think you can pretty much count on one more coming out this year. If you are looking to support us and you are enjoying what you're hearing and those kind of things, really feedback is the number one thing that we're looking for at this point in time. Subscribing and maybe sharing links to your friends and recommending it to people even outside of the church would be great. But the number one thing I think is feedback, support, here's something I would do. Wouldn't it be cool if? We can't say that we're going to do any major changes anytime soon, but we do have dreams to take this thing to next levels. I think we've talked a couple of times about having more guests on, rotating guests. We're not set up for it at this point, but
we can get there.
We are dreaming. So if you are hearing us and you have dreams, share them. Let us know. Talk to us on Sunday morning. Write us emails. The different streaming sites work differently on how you can comment. So if you're finding trouble doing that, just talk to us directly.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure most of the people listening know how to find us. And if you don't, well, then we're more popular than I thought we were. But yeah, so you can expect to hear from us one more time. Is there anything of note on the Mike Mariani watch? I don't know what he's doing right now.
I think you're doing some turkey here coming soon.
Yeah.
So I know he's got some special bourbons for our BBB.
Yeah, end of year BB&B
Bible study. But no, we'll just need to keep him and Lori in the prayers as he goes through figuring out what's going on.
Well, and keeping everybody in your prayers. If there's one thing that's true and that I know is true, is everybody's encountering the Christmas season from a different place. Whether they're grieving the loss of somebody, whether it's 20 years ago or 1 year ago, or maybe this is their first year where they're kids at college, or the first year that their parents can't come because they're not healthy enough to make the trip. There's always something. And so I'm thoughtful on everybody who's looking for that nostalgia and maybe have been told not going to happen. We're all in this together, and we're all looking for Jesus this time of year. Thanks for joining us again. This was a fun conversation. Thanks to Mike for preaching last Sunday. I really enjoyed your message, and that's a bad thing because now I'm just going to keep asking you.
That's okay. The more I do it, the more comfortable I get.
Great. Anyways, come to the table. A place has been prepared for you. See you soon.